Today's video is about fruit trees in early spring. So it's that time of year. It's the first few days of spring. The buds are on the tree so you can see the fruit sets, which are exciting. I always love that time of year. But it's so cold out today that the bees aren't flying. And because I have an organic garden and I have fruit trees in my garden as part of a permaculture strategy, I'm very reluctant to put anything on them, but I do spray my fruit trees this time of year with organic approved spray. So I use copper and omni oil mixed in a sprayer with water, and the copper will burn, it will discolor and damage the leaves, so you want to get it before bud break, which is now. It's also toxic to bees if they're flying when you're spraying it, so you want to either do it at night or on these cold spring days before the bees have really gone out and started flying around. Yesterday was warm enough that the bees were out, but today it's below 50, whatever the temperature needs to be. What is it? Below 57, I think. Could be off on that, but there's the temperature bees don't fly at. So you want to be cold. So I'm heading out to the farm store right now to grab some spreader bars for my trees and I think Felipe is going to drop off some posts. I'm getting the omni and copper, and I'm going to take you guys out there in the garden and share a little bit about what he taught me. I'm doing a total Mr. Rogers, putting on my socks. Yeah, pattern issue. I'm wearing boots so you can't see them. Putting on my socks and shoes on camera. And I had a really amazing experience just now out in my garden. My girlfriend Lupe's husband, Felipe, is he is an organic garden guru, whisperer, orchard, just this incredible wealth of information. And so I asked him about pruning my apricot tree because it's 4 years old and I've never pruned it, and it was getting crazy, and I had one main branch and then I had a competing for the main branch. We ended up spending an hour in the garden pruning my apricot tree. He pruned one plum tree, and I wish I had had my phone. I didn't want to stop and disrupt his train of thought because he was sharing so much information with me. But I'm going to go out and show you the plum tree that he used as an example that looked like a shrub before we started, and kind of give me a concept of how to prune for like the structure of the tree. And once you start pruning your trees and you have a concept of each cut and you experience them year after year, then you get a sense for what works and what doesn't work. And so he's really, really big on watching and listening and noticing, rather than just the textbook kind of trimming that we all tend to do. Like, you look through your 3 or 4 garden books and you're like, okay, this one says that and this one says that, and they both say this, and so I'm going to do that. But to actually go out there and prune in the orchard with somebody that's done this for 30 years is really extraordinary. It was super fun. I wish I could have shared him with you, but maybe in the future I can. I had to make a quick diversion. My girlfriend told me about these little limons. Have you seen these? They're like a cross between a lime and a tangerine, or a lemon and something. And they're supposed to be sweeter than regular limes. They smell amazing, but they call them limon. And I'm at Mercado Guadalajara, our little local Mexican market. So I stopped to grab some, and I'm doing kombucha today. So I'm going to flavor the kombucha with those new little limons. But now back to business, to the hardware store.
I'm gonna give him double points.
Did not get out of there cheaply. Felipe's loppers were so sharp and awesome, and mine are so dull and terrible. So I came away with new loppers. And I just saw my first car. See that little red car? Where is it? Meep. Looks just like my first car. So cute. Welcome to my garden. This is a Bartlett pear, and this is the 3rd year. I planted it 3 years ago. I'm going to show you what some of the fruit-bearing branches look like last year and kind of the desired effect that we want and what we're going for to optimize our fruit production in future years. So last year it had fruit on this branch, and you can see the weight of the pear actually trained that branch at the proper and the maximized angle for fruit production. Felipe used a wonderful example using the arch of a horse's back being about the angle you want of the branches for the optimum fruit production. So anything that doesn't measure up to those specs, we're either going to split with our little stretcher bars or we're going to prune out. Now this pear tree has already been pruned. Lupe and I went ahead and we shortened the branches. Anything that was over this long, we just cut the ends off of it or cut the tops off of it. Now you can see there's some green bud break just happening. It hasn't leafed out yet, but we have these little bud balls, and you can see the fruit spurs already forming on the tree. So these little areas will be fruit here. We wanted to maximize our fruit this year in pruning, but we didn't want to sacrifice the shape of the tree. So I said, just go ahead. I'm not super worried about fruit production this year. Let's go ahead and focus on the actual shape of the tree first. So we nipped out the top. My fruit trees, I want them about yay high and no higher. So this will give us a really good structure and a lot of room to grow. Now Lupe did say the first year you plant fruit trees, they should be chopped off kind of at the hip level. So I didn't do that. I didn't know about that when I planted these, and all my trees are 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years old. So if you are new to planting fruit trees, it's a really hard thing to do, but you just walk through the orchard and lop everything off at hip level. What that does is it encourages massive amounts of root growth, and that stabilizes the tree for the life of the tree, and in the long run you'll get stronger, bigger, more productive trees going forward. So if you don't do that, you're going to have to sacrifice cutting some of the height out of the top just so you push that energy back into the tree a little bit, and it doesn't just spend all of its energy getting really long and laggy. You can see how tightly we prune these branches. That's to keep everything really compact. Super windy. We don't want big long branches bearing fruit breaking off, sagging to the ground. So I'm really excited to see what happens to this apricot this year. This is a Blenheim, and it's an apricot traditionally grown in Northern California. You will not see them in the markets unless you live in California because they don't ship well. There's so much sugar and they're such a tender fruit that they're not made for transportation. So I'm hoping in our Oregon climate, if I keep this guy fairly dry and keep it in really tight, that I'll be able to keep it for years and years and years to come. This tree has been planted in this location for 5 years. I bought it in a nursery and it was maybe a 2-year-old sapling. So the first year it had tons of apricots and I had to pick them all off. It was heartbreaking, and as a fruit lover it's almost impossible for me to do so. But I did sacrifice fruit for the health and the vigor of the tree. And then this past year I had 2 apricots, so I'm seeing tons of little fruit buds on this. I'm looking forward to a good crop on this one. So I'm standing in front of a Honeycrisp apple. Now each apple variety is pruned a different way based on how it bears fruit and how it grows suckers. So with the Honeycrisp, we went ahead and employed a strategy that we considered both the amount of light coming into the tree. Because this is facing south, I didn't want this tree to get too big And I want it to be fairly light. I want dappled shade for this part of my garden. I don't want a big light, like void, a big shady spot. Because Honeycrisps are spur fruiting and not tip fruiting, meaning they grow apples off of these little spurs like this one, they don't grow apples at the tips. We went ahead and shortened up nearly all of the feeder arms because we didn't want the branches to be too big and too leggy. This is a super windy place and this little tree gets blasted. So we wanted to keep in mind wind penetration, light penetration, and also eventually when the tree gets old, you want little pie-shaped wedges so you can put your ladder and get into the tree. So those are all of our main considerations when we're pruning. So what we did is we wanted to keep the tree really open, and we wanted to encourage branches that when they fruit will kind of come down naturally on their own. So I'm going to put either weights, where I'm going to hang weights off of these and this branch to get them to go out. And again, we're looking for that fairly horizontal line so that we get maximum fruit production. So I'm going to take the spreader bars and I'm going to spread some of these. Eventually I'll come in with weights and I'll weight down the others. Now this tree naturally has a pretty open habitat. It did have this main feeder, it had two really big limbs coming up this way. So we cut those off so basically we could stay with the four-corner model, like two branches going out this way and two branches going out this way. These little spurs here and here and here, these are going to be fruit. This is where the flowers are going to grow from. You see that? So you can see the open kind of bell-shaped top that we're going for, and these guys, if they have fruit on them eventually, will be branches that will be growing horizontal. If they don't have fruit on them this year, I'll likely take a weight and I will hold them down with tie like little rocks on them so that they will open up. Another consideration is the distance from here to here. So Felipe said you want to keep that fairly spacious. So any little branches that came off of here and here, we went ahead and just pruned off. And again, this bottom, you can put a ladder in here and we can move our ladder and put it in here eventually and have a clear space inside of the tree. I have to sacrifice my fence for the good of my tree here. So you can see that I just gave this branch a little push downward, and likewise with this branch. This is going to be a main balancing branch, so I want to make sure that gets sent out away from the base of the tree. This is my pear tree that Felipe pruned, and you can see the basic branches in the shape that we kept. We wanted to be kind of a vase shape. Now this is an unpruned pear tree. You can see it just looks like a shrub, just a massive thicket of branches. I'm going to go and take everything over about 7 feet off, and just like this tree here, keep these main figure lines. I'm aiming for that kind of vase shape of the other tree, and that one is like 4 years older, and Felipe did it in maybe 20 minutes. So let's see what I can do for this one. I'm going to start with the bottom. As you can see on the bottom here, there's some suckers growing out from the rootstock. We don't want those. They're competing with our tree. So I'll start with those, and then we'll just start to see how the shape emerges. Wish me luck. Okay, let's see how we did. Okay, so here it is. Here's the main trunk, no more suckers competing. And then I have 4 basic leader branches that are all open. I cut out all the stuff inside. Each of these branches, I then prune them up to about as far as I wanted the tree to spread. And then I favored for the direction that I wanted the new branch to grow. So these 3 are all growing out. Again, like that kind of like that Dr. Seuss model, where you have the main one and then the little branches. And I trimmed the ends off of these to keep them nice and tight. So I think it looks pretty good. We've got one more. This is an elephant plum, which is one of my favorite plum varieties. That is the Santa Rosa. And this is a Marabella. All 3 are exceptional. The Santa Rosa for plum jam is unrivaled. So this is my Marabella, and it has never been pruned. I have a soft spot in my heart for this tree. I bought it in California. It was an heirloom rare plum variety at the time. I couldn't find any in nurseries around here, and I happened to be down there anyway, so I drug it home from California. Was doing some major excavating in the garden and didn't know where I was going to put it, so I planted my other fruit trees that I had gotten at the same time, my apple and my plum, and I was just undecided of where I was going to put this one. Well, I got busy, and then winter happened, and then snow happened, and my tiny little sapling, it was in a 4-inch pot that was like long but really narrow. It fell over in the snow and got buried and was under the snow for the winter, and then the spring I saw it and I felt super guilty that I didn't plant it. Went to pick it up and I noticed that there was a tiny little bud on it, and so I propped it up right and started watering it, and lo and behold, there it is. Anything that hardy deserves the primo place in my garden. Even though this is likely not its permanent spot, and I don't know how well it'll do if I dig it up. I'll likely have to graft it. But the sunny, warm brick spot is kind of prime, south facing. So it got to go there, and it's done tremendously well. I had a bumper crop this year, so I do love this little tree. Now this tree has a beautiful shape. There is like a main leader, but it works really good with this kind of like organic weaving strategy it has there for the next to the brick. So I'm gonna climb up the stairs and see if I can take a slightly more strategic approach from above. That definitely tightened up the branches. Felipe's advice of keeping those ends kind of tight and trimmed up, just for the wind, for the sun, for the support and health of the tree, and for bigger fruit to come. So I'm liking that. I'm liking my plum trees being in order. I've always been a little bit afraid. They were so shrubby, unlike apples or pears. I didn't even really know where to start. So having him do one for me gave me a lot of courage just to get some new loppers and just go to town. So I will be doing gardening videos throughout the summer and spring, and you guys can check back at the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Please do so. For those of you that want to support my work and like it, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment below, share it on your social media platforms, and I'll see you back here for the next video.